Everyone, this is the Backdrop bi-weekly design UX meeting for Thursday, April 18th. We'll start by going around the room and everyone give your name, location, and say a few words if you'd like. I'm Robert Lang, bug folder on the internet. I'm in Altadena, California, and I work on various odds and ends related to Backdrop when I have time. And I pass the microphone over to Wes. It was muted.
I am muted. I was double muted.
We got
All
you.
right. So I have two little design issues that bugged me when I got my local set up.
So Wes, first
Yep.
first thing we do is just quick introductions, and then we'll get to your issue.
Oh, I'm doing quick introductions.
You're jumping ahead, yeah. Quick introduction.
Wes Rubalcaba. I made the basis theme, and I'm getting back into Backdrop at my new job at Giant Rabbit. And super excited about that.
Great. I'll just jump in. Usually, well, at this meeting, we call on the next person. And I'm Tim Erickson, St. Paul Tim. I'm up in Deerwood, Minnesota, and just very busy at the moment and getting kind of focused on Feature Freeze coming up in a couple of weeks. Jen.
John Lampton, joining from Oakland, California. Working on a really big Backdrop project right now, so you're going to see me around a lot. Sorry, everyone. But yeah, that's it for me. Back to you.
Well, I hope you're sorry for
The
past,
noise.
not the future, because we're
No.
not sorry for coming, because we look forward to that. Okay.
Sorry, not sorry.
Sure. So today is a design UX meeting. We did have some issues in the issue queue, but Wes is here and he's got some issues and he seems very eager to jump into them. So let's just let Wes talk about his issues first. Go ahead.
I'll just keep it to the GitHub issues and not my general issues.
Okay.
That's for counseling. All right. So, yeah, this one I saw. It's just a tiny inconsistency between how bullets are handled on basis versus 7. And so yeah, now they're the same. Is my MR basically, and I think it's ready to go. So yeah, that's all linked up and everything. And then the other one, I logged a duplicate issue for this, but when you go to the home page after install, there's this awkward white space and the status mesh is bumping up there. And my solution ended up being making this light gray background white and putting a subtle drop shadow on the cards. That just kind of avoided a lot of headaches. I couldn't quite get this to feel right with the light gray background, and so that's my solution. So yeah, hoping people like that. Oh, and it looks like I might need to check comments here. But anyway, would love to see those go in. And I'm also working on CSS custom property stuff for cores, basically or also known as CSS variables. So like for a new kind of basis theme or updates to the admin theme, I think having a CSS variable approach or in core that makes sense that then other things extend will be good for us. So yeah, I'm mocking up basically a code pen that kind of shows how the structure and naming of the custom properties, and then I'm going to try and demo in the page how that can be used and extended. And it'll enable things like dark mode and easier like color module stuff, and potentially, and I don't know, should be cool. That's it.
Cool. So do you need any feedback or anything yet, or is that too early?
Not yet. Just I put in an
Okay.
issue for it. I don't remember. I didn't click on it. I didn't find it, but so yeah, just planting the seed basically. That I want to start doing that. Anyone who has strong opinions or things they like or whatever, things they don't like, that'd be great.
Ooh,
Oh, got
lovely
Greg.
faces. Wes,
yeah.
Robert, I haven't seen you guys in ages.
I'll grab-
Oh, the gang's all here now.
Awesome.
Um,
All right, I think
this-
I will be swinging by,
the custom CSS properties doesn't affect our this is like a new feature, right? So it doesn't affect, it's not like a backward compatibility issue, or is it, Jen, you,
the other guys.
It's a new feature in CSS.
right?
So it's the
Okay.
So basically we'll go in, my thought is that all fonts and colors should have a custom property, and we can make it so that it'll work for IE. That's basically the main concern. And it just involves a little bit of effort. And then if you're cool and you support CSS variables / custom properties, you get the new thing, and then everything's easier to override and stuff.
Sure.
So I think we could do it in core. If not, it could be a contrib module before 2.x that, would just override all the core CSS. But that would be a little weird. But it would only be the colors and fonts, so it wouldn't be too bad.
Okay. Sounds good. So we have a feature freeze in a couple of weeks. This is not something, it sounds like this is a big project, so we're not looking at 1.28 for this, right? No. Okay. Good. We have, I think we're just diving in here. I had posted some issues in the forum. I don't actually have the agenda open. I don't know if, Jen, if you have them in the agenda, but I'm just going to open up my.
I did add them to the agenda. I
Okay,
added all the
well, I
ones I
should-
thought were.
I should get that open.
Are we talking
think-
design related issues? Is that what we're
It's
Okay.
about the design UX, anything that we would normally do.
There's
seems
one on
best.
here that might fit nicely with what Wes was talking
Sure.
about. There's an issue here to allow an alter hook for color module.
Solidly
That's something that we could maybe leverage for like that contrib module you were talking about, where you want to replace
Yeah. Um,
styles. I don't know how, it just
I
seems
have plenty of
tangentially related. Or like,
whose
if we
parents
had a way that you could do that, you could swap it all out with
them some portion of it.
Mm.
something completely
I
different.
think that we have been doing a good job at tagging the issues in the issue queue with design, if it's design related. And since we have Wes in our company again, there's issues about the redesign of the views page. I don't know where that's at. The field UI comes to mind. So, and I'm mentioning Wes because there was
Right.
some live and some designs back when.
So I understand that. The other big factor is we're 2 weeks from feature freeze. So
Oh,
Um,
it's specific to that the next release. Sorry, I thought
well,
that.
it doesn't have to be, but that's just another factor. Like in terms of prioritizing things, if there's things we can unstick that might get in 2 weeks, they might be also priorities. I think the big one would be the well, Jen, were we finished with the one you were just, Jen, did you want to talk more about that, or did you just? wanna-
I don't actually know anything about that issue. I
Okay.
just saw it in the queue and thought, because we were talking about
Sure.
colors.
Should
Well,
we-
that sounds like a Joseph thing,
um,
or is it Doc Wilmot? Actually, it might be Doc Wilmot.
which issue is this?
Jen, do you remember the issue number?
6240.
Stayed in my house until they were murdered.
40.
And because I don't, there's no reason for.
Allow a hook to alter the list
Okay.
of CSS files parsed. by
Tell you what,
color
I
module.
actually have to step away for just a second. So I think, I don't remember if I flagged this or,
Yeah.
but if
It
so, it seemed like it could be an interesting one that might have, I don't know if it would be possible to get moving or not. But I have to step away for a minute. So you guys talk about this and or move on to another issue. Save the content type one.
You said-
Until I get back.
Okay,
You said 6240?
Yeah, oh, sorry, I'm dyslexic. 6240. Yeah, I think that's it. Let me drop it into the weekly meetings Zulip. Just for sure.
Oh,
6240. Is that what I said? I might have said 6420.
I was just looking at the wrong repo.
Oh.
So anyway,
I had somehow ended up in the main backdrop repo instead of the issues repo.
You were looking at a pull request. I do that all the time.
Are we recording this or meant to record
I
this or
think
just?
we are, is live streaming. Yeah.
Okay, so my basically my opinion on the color module is it needs to be replaced entirely with a new system that works better. Like I have spent so much time trying to beat the color module into being what I want it to be. And
I think that's
I've
fair.
kind
I
of
think
given up.
that's also like a candidate for Backdrop 2, right? Replacing the old color module with a new color module that's not so weird.
Unless we replace it in a way that is backwards compatible.
I was yeah,
Yeah,
I don't
that's
know.
much
It's
harder.
like functionally it's the same as what was added in whatever it was, Drupal 5. Like the way it works under the hood is kind of hasn't changed since then.
Yeah.
Um, I was actually experimenting with a module that sort of like reads in all the CSS files, looks for custom properties, and then makes a form that represents your custom properties. Um, which is cool, but it's kind of like a lot of work and it's not going to be done soon. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I kind of just gave up on the color modules.
I think you showcased that at some point.
Yeah, it was really, really rough. But I essentially found a library that lets you parse CSS files and turn them into an object structure you can manipulate in PHP. And then I used that to just pull out like, okay, there's a custom property here. It has a color in it, so I'm going to put a field on the settings form that makes that work.
The color widget. Yeah.
Yeah. And I can look at like, okay, this is used in a color or we set this to a color, so I can sort of map them. But it's like, I don't know. I'm curious what other people's thoughts about this are.
Yeah. There was another issue. I'm trying to find an old one. Where we would ask people to provide logos of their organization, and then we would derive colors and adjust. I think
Mhm.
at the time it was for bases, and automatically adjust the colors of bases to match their identity or whatever based on that. So it
Right.
would be more of an out of the box. Here's what matches with your logo or whatever.
Mhm.
But it was very early on, and I don't think that we considered things like contrast and readability and things like that. So yeah, I'll try to find that.
Yeah, so the way I'm looking at doing custom properties in core, I think might be helpful to think about with a new color module. So I think what I'm trying to do could simplify some of your UI. Basically, like there's a certain set of color variables that are that you would expect with anything that's providing its own color scheme. And then your functionality of tearing through the CSS and looking for other custom properties could be like oh, if that's not doing everything you need, you could do that as well. If that
Mhm.
if that makes sense. There'd be like your standard ones, and then you could also maybe catch the custom ones. And there's
Right.
inevitably going to be custom ones because there's no way in hell any color palette naming scheme is going to cover everything. And you
Yeah, I
didn't
was trying
think
to-
it'd be bad if you tried.
My idea was that like it would like you could give it like a list of variable names in the info
Mhm.
file. And if you did that, it would only use those. But if you didn't do that, it would go find them for you.
That's a cool
So
idea.
it would be like a you can give it a list, but if you don't feel like it, it'll just go find them all.
Yeah, I think my thought is that like the system module or something would define like the lowest level like standard
Okay.
CSS variables, and then the admin theme might add on to it, and basis or whatever else might add on to it, and then contrib does whatever contrib wants.
Okay.
That was kind of my thought. But yeah, that might match up well.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
thinking that that parsing can only be like instead of having it being done constantly or whatever, when you visit the theme settings page, that's when it reparses
Mhm.
things. So it's not a constant thing performance wise. It just looks for any new things since the last time you accessed the settings page.
Right. Yeah. And my prototype only scans the themes. It doesn't look in core or any of your modules.
Right.
I don't know how much of like a performance hit it would be to like scan all the CSS files in the whole of core. It seems like that might be a lot. Yeah.
I would think if you
Yeah.
had like an info file standard, core could just do that.
Okay.
And he would like, yeah, core would be where we could provide standardization, where yeah, other things might be more Wild West.
Yeah. The other thing I was so the color module, what it does is it essentially takes your file, makes a copy of it, and swaps out the colors. But what I was planning on doing was essentially leaving all the files in the theme as they are and creating a new file that just has the property overrides in it. So it'd be a lot lighter weight and a lot less like filling up your files directory with a bunch of files that you don't know if they're important or not. And it would just be like one file that's like, here are all the property overrides. So, yeah. I do think we also need to be careful about that a little bit with essentially creating a new API that I don't like. I think we should be a little careful about not getting ourselves stuck. If we tell people like, yes, we will support this, and then we have to change how it works.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that like we're creating like a CSS API. We haven't done that before. And if our decision is like major versions can change front end, but they can't break APIs, we're now creating something that's like sticking right in the middle where it's like it's front end and an API. So are we ever allowed to change it or not? So that might be hard. But a fun
Looking-
thought experiment though.
Looking through the design and UX issues, I also I'll update the PR sandbox. It's just been sitting there since February 2022, issue 5503, which is basically adding required marker to field sets that are collapsed and vertical tabs, just to indicate that there's required fields there.
Didn't we run into this before? Like, aren't the required fields supposed to have default values? Did we run into a situation where they don't? It was like log message or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So I did. Yeah, see, I'm not sure if it was from Contrib, but I found you must that screenshot that I have in the issue description, you must enter a revision log message. And I'm not sure if that's from Contrib or Core.
What, did you drop a link to this somewhere? You can put
No.
it
Is
in
that-
the-
Is that if you had the revision on by default?
Yeah, I think so. I'll have to revisit it. As I said, I haven't seen this for like 2 years now. Plus, so I'll revisit that, and I'll at the very least just refresh the PR sandbox so that people can. And I'm not sure from accessibility standpoint, but that's why I have the needs more feedback tag there.
I know that design guidelines or rules are that vertical tabs should have workable defaults. But I also know that contrib modules violate
Don't.
that, and UberCart definitely violates that. UberCart puts important things in vertical tabs that you have to fill in.
I wish we could come up with a reasonable default value for that so that this wouldn't be such an issue. That might be another alternative too. I am working with the Center for Accessible Technology on accessibility issues on another project, and I could probably squeeze in a question for them on how to handle required form values in hidden areas, like details elements have those, field sets have those, like this is not a pattern that's unique to vertical tabs. So I'm sure there's a solution for those that would apply to this also.
But this discussion gave me an idea as well. Maybe we shouldn't be like the implementation that I have. I don't recall, but I think it sort of like regardless of whether that required field has a value or not. But maybe I can scan if the field doesn't have a default value, then it pops the indicator. The UX problem there is that you fill in a form, you miss some things because they're hidden, either collapsed or in vertical tabs. You hit save and then it says, "Oh, you should fill that." So
yeah,
the UX improvement would be to indicate that before you hit save, so you don't have to do multiple clicks around.
Or did we talk about taking this out of the vertical tab?
Well, I think
Like it shouldn't be in the tab. You shouldn't be able to get in that. Like if it's required, you should have to see it, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll ask C4AT about this too, because this works, this field set. This is not a unique
but this
problem.
is
We'll figure
this
out.
is still a
How is this also history wise? We didn't used to be able to make that required, right? And that's how like it wasn't and then in Backdrop we added the ability to make that required. Yeah, okay.
didn't it? I thought that
Maybe the
was,
contrib. I'll spin up a demo and see real quick.
Okay.
but there are certainly a lot of modules that have like UberCart. Any kind of e-commerce setting has hundreds of settings, and you need some way of collapsing them. So
Yeah, but not a vertical tab.
I'm gonna just say this again. I like vertical tabs. I'm gonna keep using them.
Yeah, that's fine. As long as we know to enforce.
Yeah.
Contrib can do whatever it wants. We also, it would be nice if we had like better solutions for this in general, like,
And that is.
Yeah. but I don't know.
Even if we hate them, there's D7 modules out there that if we're gonna support the porting, we need to come at least close to the UI that people already are used to using.
Yeah,
Okay,
Contrib will do what it will do.
okay.
Should we, Greg, what issue was that we were talking about?
Uh,
The link into
5503.
5503. Thank you.
Robert, did you have a favorite issue that that was blocking you on something else that you pinged Greg about a few weeks ago?
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's even a design UX issue.
Right.
And I've got 5590 burned into my memory banks, and I'll bet Greg does too.
All right, so
I think it was
that
No.
work in my new employee the past year has taken
Oh,
a
no,
toll of me 3 times. So
it's not 5590. You
No.
probably know it.
yeah, I know which one. It's the details element thing, the more or less thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I think that it comes up here.
Does that require any discussion or just a reminder that?
No, just me to just.
Because I think that's blocking some things that you were trying to work on, isn't it, Robert?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of places, a lot of them in Contrib, but where it would just be really nice to have your single line and then be able to expand to give more details.
It's
Yeah,
issue
that's-
5090.
Yeah, it's 5509.
Do you know, Robert, is that issue close enough that somebody else could take it over, or is Greg in the middle of stuff that?
Where it was left, I think, and Greg, you can correct me on this, is it looked like it worked and was ready to go. And then Greg came in and said, wait, I saw something else that I need to work on.
No, it wasn't that. It was, I think Jen left some feedback, not on the issue itself, but after a meeting such as this, to say that we should be doing theme suggestions instead of. So I needed to rework the whole thing. It was a bigger change than if it was a small thing, it would have been done. I needed to rework things. That's where I think it's not left as a comment in the issue. I'm afraid it's just
It
in my
might be on
memory.
the pull request, but I
Sorry?
could, it might be on the pull request.
Oh, it might be there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is issue 5090.
That's
Okay. Are we done with those issues? Is there anything more to say about that? No? Okay. Should we talk about this content type layout issue? Is that okay?
Sure. Yeah.
I'm gonna share my screen. So I think. So this is issue 2894. Okay, so look, I don't, this, I think, I might have put this in the issue queue before some of this last action happened. Let's actually open it up and just make sure. So I think that, Jen, some of your comments have left me a little bit unsure about if you have where you're at in terms of like that the layout page, the way the layout page per content type is working.
Okay.
And I just want to see figure out how close we are.
Yeah, I think we're pretty close. It looks pretty darn good.
Okay, so here we can look at it together in just a second. I'm just logging into the. So for those who are unfamiliar, Robert, I don't know if you've had a chance to look at this. We looked at it during Backdrop Live, but I know you couldn't be there. It's under content type. So if we go to a content type, the post content type, basically we have a PR that adds a manage layouts. And so one of the additions that's happened since the last time we looked at it was this. So there's a link to create a layout for post content types and one to create a layout for all content types. I think Doc Wilmot implemented this, but wasn't sure that he liked it. Jen, in particular, is this what you had in mind? And do you still think that makes sense here?
Yeah, because
Okay.
if you don't have a layout for all content, you might want to make that rather than one that's specifically for a type. And if you know
Sure.
enough about layouts, you can just remove the condition. So
Right.
that is an option, but this is just what we'd originally talked about.
Okay.
So we can try it and see how it feels.
Okay, so basically what these two links do is one is just making a new layout that's good for all content types, and one is specifically for posts. And the big thing here, and I know, Jen, you had talked about skipping this step, but
Yeah.
the problem with that is, and this is maybe the big thing to talk about, is that then where do you get this option? Like, because
Yeah, I
for
don't
me,
think
this
that should be an
option is
option.
what?
I don't think that should be an option.
Well, to me, this was like, for me, it was the fundamental benefit of this whole thing. Like I wanted to expose field blocks, and if that option isn't there, we've done. I mean, that doesn't mean that the PR has no value. It still has.
Yeah,
value.
they're still there on the next page. You just don't see that until you're there. Till you find a block.
No,
I'm
but the question we've had people say they don't want them there, right? So
Yeah.
do we
most of the
automatically
time.
put them there, or do we automatically not put them there?
You don't place the blocks, but they're available on the next page.
Well, yeah, okay, but my point is that people don't, I was looking for a way to expose them so people would actually see them.
Yeah. I'm with Tim on that. I know that this is a feature that only Backdrop Chronic has, as Doc Wilmot says, Chronic Backdrop and Drupal users would know that, that the defaults are that.
Right.
But people that don't know that this feature exists, they don't know what
Right.
to do. And I would take it a step further because the implementation is okay, but I would, and I know that it's like when you have two values which are on off, you should have a checkbox. But in this use case, I would like us to have a radio button that explains the two different options and why. So do this because you want to do that, or do the other thing because you want to do some other things. So I know that it's now as a checkbox, but I would like to provide it as options.
I don't think
Uh,
it should be an option at all. Like, so if we allow people to do this, we're essentially breaking the field display page. So we're just allowing people to break the interface the way it is now. I feel like if people don't want field display, then we need to turn that off. Like we need to replace that with like the layout instead. And if, like, I think the most common use case is people want both, right? The field display controls the things you do want in the main content, and the main content block is on the page. Then we also need to add some kind of connection between the layout block display and the field display. So that maybe if you place a field block, it'll immediately put like an error on your content block that says like you need to change your display settings to prevent this field from displaying twice. I mean, not an error, a warning, because you might want it displayed
Warning.
twice. Something that just indicates that these things are tied together. Because if you give people the ability to be like, oh yeah, place all the fields, and then they start removing stuff and they're like, why are there no fields? Why are there who fields? Like we're just creating a situation I think is going to confuse people. Whereas if they don't know they have the option, then they aren't able to shoot themselves in the foot, but at least they don't end up with like a horribly broken scenario. I'm having more ideas as I'm talking this through. Another thing we could do is as soon as you place a field block on the page, present them with like a modal or something that says, do you want to hide the display of this field in the main content block or something like that, that would do a config change behind the scenes in the field settings rather than only changing the configuration of the layout. Or
Could we make that a
just, I would like to make it so that things are less broken when people use them. And I feel like there's probably a way to do this by changing multiple things
Okay,
at once.
but I have a scenario where I actually would want both, where I would want a field block and then I would also want it shown
Yeah,
because you might have it.
two different display types.
Well, you might embed your content in something else using views or using an existing content block, and then not show the main content block at all on the actual layout for that page.
Yeah.
So there is a scenario where you could want it in the display and in the layout.
As a field block.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've done this a lot with like addresses, like you can render it as a map and you can render it as an address. So you can render the same field twice.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. But I do think it should be an option to tie these together.
You know, I'm all for figuring out the best way to do it, but the problem that I got excited about solving was the fact that people frequently, all the time, say, "I want to create I want to move this field over
This
to a
does
different
solve
column."
that problem.
Right.
We're just not forcefully assuming people always want to do it. Like the problem that you originally described was, I'm trying to add a block and there's no block here for a field. That problem is solved by the solution. Like you try and add a block and you're like, oh, all the field blocks are here, right? Like that solution is now in place because the
Right.
node context is available. We're just not
Except that
saying,
I think people don't, even if the node context is
Mhm.
available, they're not even looking for those blocks. They don't know they're there.
but you were originally when you opened this issue. You're like, I'm typing field names and you're not seeing anything.
So
Yeah.
I
don't.
I just loved it when I opened up the Drupal play page builder and I had my blocks there. It was like, wow, this is cool.
All your
This
blocks
is
are
when I-
already placed into the layout for you.
Yes, yes.
How did they know
If-
where to put them?
When you're creating the layout, you have the option to say manage my blocks, and then it just automatically puts them. The
Right, 'cause
layout
it's
is
a
very
display
simple.
suite, and you don't
Yeah,
have
it's-
the option to do both.
right
Right.
in Drupal 8 plus, the page builder is it's in the manage displays place,
Yeah.
so it knows I am on a node of type post.
And then it by default displays all your content there,
Right.
and you have to remove the things you don't want.
Right. We essentially have layout management in two locations. And I think that's partially why it's confusing.
Yeah, and I think like that, but doing it that way means that it is more intuitive for people because they're already on a page where they're managing fields, and so they expect to see fields there. I feel like we could do that too, right? Like, but that would be displaying how do you want your existing content block to render, right? It doesn't give you access to the rest of the layout. I still think we can figure out how to tie these together better.
Sure, I don't doubt that there's a better implementation out there. I'm concerned that it slows things down too much, but maybe it's worth it. So,
I also think like maybe let's not do everything at once. Right? Like
Okay.
if we can just get the how do I create a node/% layout problem solved, that will expose field blocks for people who are searching for them, and it'll fix the weird context issue and what do I type in the URL block when it's not a URL. Like I think it still solves a lot of problems, but maybe we shouldn't have the, I don't know, some way to just make the process of creating the node layout without making any assumptions about what people want to do with it to start with, so that it works exactly the way your site worked before you push the button, right? You just now have the layout you didn't know how to make before. And then if we
Is
can
that-
figure out a way to make it so that from the fields page, you can, or the content type page, you can choose to specify per field settings. If you already know where that block is placed on the page, we can then place all the fields in that same place, right? And allow people to move them around. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know that we need to solve all the problems in the first iteration of this.
I suppose it's disappointing. I mean, and I guess I question your assumption. You're still, so I can buy the idea. Okay, maybe we have to do this step by step. But when you say we're already exposing the fields, I mean, see, I don't feel like we are because people aren't seeing them. I'm not confident they'll find them.
Mhm.
Now, maybe doing it step by step will reveal I'm wrong. That maybe if we do the step that you're talking about, maybe people will find them easier. But the point, having them exposed under the block menu, to me, I'm just not convinced that people will still find them or
But
understand
how would you not
what they
find
are.
them if you were trying to add a block? You have to use that interface.
So
Well, yeah. go ahead.
I'm kind of with him on this one. I feel like the discoverability of the blocks is basically non-existent. Like I have thrown non-technical users at the layout system and they cannot figure it out at all. So I have a ton of things I wish I could change about this, like the add blocks. I wish the add blocks would show literally every block, whether it has a context available or not, and then have it tell you, you can do this, but it'll only work in this circumstance.
Yeah, I think we
Because
have a
right now
specifically
we
for that
have
too.
like things that just disappear, and
Yeah.
they just can't find them.
Yeah.
And we could take another approach, not another additional implementation. So, Tim, the way that you showcased before is when you start creating a new layout and you have the appropriate context, then you are presented with options. If you go to a layout where the main page content block exists, like even the default layout, and we'll pretend for the sake of this demo that the default layout is, or since the node path exists anyway. You've already
go to the default. There isn't a main content block on the homepage.
yeah. So in the default layout there, maybe that text there could be a little bit more explanatory, and there would be an option to say replace this main content thing with individual fields, And as part of the wizard, we would have a warning saying that, hey, this might cause duplicated, or this is what you need to do in order to not have the duplicated. Or if we can predict the bad things that happen, we provide options. Disable these from these displays so that it doesn't show twice or something like that. So I like where I'm with Tim and Joseph that with regards to discoverability and that thing improves it. Maybe we can add to it to, you know, protect people from these the results that end up being broken or duplicated or whatever. So it needs a little bit more thought, but I think it's going into the right direction, and I agree that something needs to be done. I'm not sure. So I like
Do you
what
think
what I'm
this
saying
is
is
an improvement without the interfering checkbox,
uh
intermediary checkbox?
I know that it is an improvement with regards to solving the problem of discoverability, but I also acknowledge what you said about resulting in broken things. So we need some kind of warning, or if we can predict the bad things that are going to happen, just listing what these things, or, you know, provide links to the displays where people can, you know, disable things for these. Anyway, I'll have to think of the
There's a
workflow.
couple of things we could do. I mean, so again, this is of course all depending on context, but like this main content block, like your site might not work if you remove this. Some people remove this from the page, which I feel like is living on the edge, but that's fine, right? It's got a warning there. What we could do is put some more information there. So you could say something like, you know, if you're on the node context or a fieldable entity, we could put something in there that's like, this is where your fields will display, or just this could use a lot more help text inside the main content block here. That's a place where we could add links to whatever entity type field display settings if we needed to. And as soon as you place a field block, that could become like, I don't know, like a warning or something instead of just a regular text link to be like, you have displayed fields in multiple places, whatever. I still think it would be better if we could change it automatically, like when you place the block in the block configuration, there was an option to like also hide this from field display. And then if you checked that, it would automatically change the other one for you. It would save people the time of having to go to both interfaces. I feel like that's probably not too hard to add, like field module could alter the block configuration or something. And
Interpreting what Tim was saying as a user requirement, like I figured out that there's layouts. I came here, here's the main content region. I understand regions, and there's the main page content. And I understand that this displays all my fields. What I want to do is move certain fields to other regions. That was the requirement, correct, Tim?
Yeah, I think so.
This is what I'm saying. To me, unless I can't think of any reason now, the main option for that specific block shouldn't be configured, but we should add another thing that says split to individual fields, which is an action that people often want to do.
but you rarely want all of your content split to individual.
Or maybe not all of them, just split in the certain fields. I don't know how to phrase it now.
Yeah,
but
that's hard, right? Like
Like if you have
we can't
if you have
do
50
that with
fields,
one. Yeah, like how would you decide? And what if like none of those fields are body, right? Like it's just really hard to make an arbitrary decision about which ones. You really need to give people an interface and be like,
it
place the ones you
would
want.
be
But what we could do is maybe have a list of all of the fields with links to be like, display this field as a block. And then for any given one, if you click it, it'll disable the field display and add a block,
we could
Sure.
add
we could
block
display the
modal.
fields. We could display the fields within there as movable items and allow people to move them. Like we could expand that and these are the list of fields. I want this field in that region.
On
That
this,
becomes more of a layout builder thing. Yes, Robert?
so on this page, a nice thing about having that checkbox there is that it gives us the opportunity to add a whole lot of explanation underneath it. I mean, so replace the main content block with individual field blocks, more link. And if you click on, because people say, well, what does that mean? What are the ramifications? And if you
I
then
just
click
feel
on
like
the more link, you
the
can
use,
you can put in a paragraph of explanation about what's happening.
I just feel like the use case for the result of this checkbox is 0. Like the amount of times people will want every single field in an individual block placed on a block layout is like,
Well,
like,
Jen, let
like
me,
what people
I'm
want is
gonna,
something in the middle.
So
well,
maybe that explanation, maybe then that paragraph of expandable explanation goes in the main content block on the layout page. You know, or in that section. I mean, but the idea of making it possible for people to easily see there's more information here because I'm not really sure what's going on would be,
Yeah.
that's sort of the point where it's most helpful.
so,
And I feel like if we did want to have an intermediary page here, this is like the wrong question to ask. What we should be doing is listing all of the fields with a
Sure.
bunch of checkbox that's like select which fields you want. And then that would at least give people a use case that's real rather than doing this like, oh, well, this is a good demo. This is a
Sure.
great, like, you know, this is what we want to see right now in the pull request. But this is
I-
not something that's like suitable for core as it is now.
I would push back on the idea that the other use case is so fringe that you're describing, but I am also hearing from you
But
that,
it says, like, if you remove that block from your page, your site may be broken, right? We put that there for a reason because you're not supposed to do that. And now we're giving the people that's like, we're gonna break your site and you're not even gonna have that
Yeah.
warning anymore because we've removed the block that says your site might be broken.
okay, well,
I agree, but again, this is specific to backdrop people that know what breaks and know what the consequences.
Right,
I would
but we
like to
can
add
build
more.
something that doesn't
Sure.
break their site.
sure. So can I finish quick? So
Go ahead, Jen.
but I am, Jen, this conversation has really helped me understand your objection and I see the reasons for it. I'm not weighing them the same way you are, but I at least understand them better. I mean, when you first raised this, one of the options was to on this page was to list all the fields and have you pick which ones you wanted field blocks for.
Yeah,
Is there a scenario where that would actually make sense to you, or is that just a hypothetical?
that would be
that you're-
significantly better than this, for
Okay.
sure.
Well,
Yeah, 'cause this
I
is
certainly
this-
wouldn't object to that. That just it feels to me like it would be one step better. Yeah.
Yeah, the main objection I have to this, and I don't know if this is still a problem with this particular pull request and can probably solved in other ways, is that when you click this create layout button, you're actually creating a layout. And most of the time people will get to the page where they see their layout and be like, oh, that's not what I meant. And then they'll go back. And now you have a layout that exists in the system that's not doing what they wanted and it's
Okay.
active. And so what I would really like is to get people from the like create a layout button to the page where they can go, oh, I don't want this, and then go back without having created the layout and have it be in use. So there might be some way that if you click this create layout button, you land on a page that is stored in the temp store that doesn't actually exist yet. And if
Right.
you click cancel, it'll clear it, or it'll never save it in the first place, and that'll be fine.
Sure.
But when we were looking at this originally, it looked like saving this page created a layout like this form. And
Right.
so we just need to find a way to like, I
Yeah.
don't know if it's using the API, like just have a different form than this
Sure.
one. That
Um,
would do it the other way.
Tim, with regards to discoverability, how about like would you imagine that like if you go back to the layout where the block is, like if we detect that the layout is belongs or renders a fieldable entities, if we somehow see how it has the explanation text that this is the default content for this page, which doesn't say a lot.
Yeah,
If we said that, if we detected that this layout is for a fieldable entity, right? And we said, expand this because it contains more blocks, and then people can pull blocks out of that and place them to other sidebars. Wouldn't that make it more discoverable? To
Oh,
say,
yeah.
hey, this main page content for this specific layout, because we don't have to expose the terms because it has this context. In this specific layout, because it belongs to fieldable thingy, you have those fields available. And then you expand it and you see those fields, otherwise it's
Yep.
expanded. And you know now that you have the option to move these things to the sidebar or the bottom. You move one field, you
Mhm.
leave the rest within that main page content thing. So we solve the problem that Jen said, or
Sure.
people don't want all the fields out there if they have like 50 or 100 fields, right? So you cover that scenario of not messing things up or making it difficult. Yeah. So
Yeah.
maybe we could, would you like me to raise another issue where we can discuss that
we
approach?
should do that too. Yeah. Completely independent of this, I think we should definitely take more advantage of that description text and make it useful, more useful in different contexts. I also think we should solve the issue of like making things discoverable when they're disabled. I think there might be a contrib module for that already. I don't know. I feel like someone has played with that already. But we definitely could figure out some way to indicate that they're disabled and why. And I think that those two problems should be solved separately from this problem. This problem is sort of like, it's a shortcut to get you from node type to node type layout. If we can get rid of that step where we ask for a name of a layout and a pattern, a template for the layout, and just give people a list of what blocks do you want and get them to here, I think that would be a lot better. Choosing the layout template is also problematic because we might end up with a template that doesn't have any regions that coincide with the default region, and then all the blocks are nowhere. I don't know if that's a better user experience than what we have now. But yeah, I don't know, just I think making some more
Yeah,
assumptions.
well, can I quick summarize? We're almost out
Yeah.
of time. I mean, I definitely agree that Greg's idea is a different solution that solves my problem as well, right? So in some combination of them, totally makes sense to me. I'm feeling a little bit like this, it might be hard to solve this now by 1.28, but that's not the primary issue here.
But we
The
can
primary-
put in lots of little pieces, right?
Yeah,
Like,
we could get, if we sort of have a map forward, we could at least get some little pieces in. Yeah.
I think like displaying the blocks, that might be harder on the API side, but from a user interface standpoint, displaying disabled blocks might also be a little thing that we could get in. The link to create the layout template is something that we could get in the layout
Sure.
override. I think that, we just have to like.
Yeah.
Careful baby steps. And if the only way we can get this in initially would be to have an intermediary page that asks which blocks you want, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
But I would prefer to not, when you save it, make sure it doesn't exist until somebody's happy with the layout page.
Okay.
Manage blocks. interface.
Well, Doc Wilmot's been doing the work on this, and I think he will appreciate being able to watch this conversation. So the recording, and that'll help. I'll try to summarize it as well. Okay, so anyways, this has been, I think the discussion's been helpful, and it might have slowed us down a little, but it didn't stop us, and you're right, we have the chance for baby steps. So. Okay, well, we're really at the time for the dev meeting. We have other people showing up. Why don't we end this meeting? Yeah, get ready for the next. Bye, everybody.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Stick around for the dev meeting.